He was Rome's golden airborne into the most powerful family in the empire. Loved by soldiers, adored by citizens, hailed as the future of Rome. But history remembers him not as a savior, but as a monster. His name was Caligula, Rome's most infamous emperor of lust and madness. Caligula was born Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus in 12 AD. His father Germanicus was Rome's beloved general. His mother, Agrippina, a proud descendant of Augustus himself. As a boy, he marched alongside soldiers. They dressed him in a tiny uniform and gave him a nickname, Caligula, Little Boots. It was meant as affection, but the child behind the nickname would grow up scarred by betrayal and ambition. When his father mysteriously died, likely poisoned by rivals, his family was torn apart. His mother and brothers were exiled or killed by the paranoid Emperor Tiberius. Caligula alone survived, forced to grow up in the very palace of the man who destroyed his family. Imagine it, a boy raised in a snake pit, learning to smile at the man who murdered his kin, pretending loyalty while silently waiting for his chance. When Tiberius died in 37 AD, the Senate declared Caligula emperor. At just 24 years old, he inherited the throne of the most powerful empire on earth. At first, Rome rejoiced. He freed political prisoners, granted bonuses to soldiers, staged magnificent games. The people cheered. Rome finally had its prince. But then something changed. After a sudden, near-fatal illness, Caligula emerged transformed. The hope of Rome curdled into horror. He began to declare himself more than human, not just emperor, but a living god. He ordered temples built in his honor, demanded worship at his statues, and forced senators to bow not to the empire, but to him. Power without limits intoxicated him, and Caligula reveled in it. Rome became his playground of desire. Palaces turned into dens of excess. Nights filled with banquets, wine, and bodies. Husbands and wives feared being summoned to his chambers, knowing refusal meant death. Stories spread of Caligula taking his own sisters as lovers. Others whispered of weddings turned to mockery. Brides claimed one night and discarded the next. His lust was not only for pleasure, but for domination, for humiliating the elite, reminding them their honor, their lives, even their bodies belonged to him. But lust was only half his reign. The other half was cruelty. Senators forced to run beside his chariot like slaves. Spectators hurled into the arena, not for crimes, but for his amusement. When treasury funds ran dry, he opened a palace brothel staffed by the wives and daughters of Rome's nobility, and taxed everything from marriages to lawsuits to refill his coffers. His madness became legendary. To mock a prophecy that he had no more chance of becoming emperor than of riding a horse across water, Caligula ordered a bridge of ships built across the Bay of Baia and rode his horse triumphantly over the sea. The horse Incitatus became a symbol of his insanity-fed oats mixed with gold, living in a marble stable, and even threatened to be made a consul of Rome. By 41 AD, after 4 years of terror, lust, and humiliation, even those closest to him had enough. Senators whispered of rebellion, and his own guards plotted betrayal. On a cold January morning, as Caligula entered a passage beneath the palace for a performance, blades struck from the shadows. The emperor, who thought himself a god, fell under the swords of his own protectors. He was just 28 years old. Caligula's death was greeted with celebration in the streets. The Senate sought to erase his memory, but erasure was impossible. His legacy was carved too deeply in the bones of Rome. Was he truly insane, or was he simply the twisted product of a childhood soaked in violence and betrayal? Perhaps he believed that if Rome would not love him, it would fear him. What history knows for certain is this: in just 4 short years, Caligula left a legacy of lust and cruelty so shocking that 2,000 years later, his story remains a warning. Because absolute power doesn't just corrupt in Caligula's hands, it consumed.